Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Parental Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Mark Hayes, and we help parents who might be struggling to communicate successfully with their student athletes create those deeper emotional connections so they can enjoy those athletic endeavors together as a family. Joining us today to talk about a very important subject is Charles Thuss, a former ice hockey owner, coach, and goaltender who was an All-American for the Miami Redhawks. And despite all that success, there was a time and experience in his life that led him to his passion project that he carries on to this day. Joining us now, the CEO and founder of Compassionate Connection and a mental health expert, Chuck Thuss. Chuck, good morning. What a pleasure to see you, my friend.
Mark, it's such a pleasure to be here with you, and you're doing such meaningful work, and for the blessing to be on the show with you this morning, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Absolutely. You're one of my favorite people that I've met recently. I can tell we're going to be best friends, and I'm so excited about our relationship. But I wanted to talk today about this topic that's really close to your heart. We've dealt with it as a family as well, and that is young men contemplating suicide, or actually young men and women contemplating taking their own lives. Despite all your success, you were in that place once. I know the question is, how does that happen? But there's no easy answer. So kind of help our parents understand how even someone like you who's having so much success gets to that place.
Mark, and you said it exactly. There's no real ingredient. There's no playbook. I'm a believer that there's no two journeys that are identical that get people to that breaking point. And I can only speak from my experience because it's my personal journey. As you mentioned earlier, I get phone calls to this day because it is the passion, it's the love, the work that I love to do. And I believe it's my purpose, and I believe that it's what I'm supposed to be doing. It's an honor to be able to receive these calls because there's people everywhere that are hurting. And for me, it was a combination, Mark, of mental health, pressure, not taking care of myself, just everyday life stuff, but as much a culmination of years and years and years of basically neglect and just suppressing things. And as athletes, men and women, boys and girls, we get taught to suppress things. You and I have had this conversation, right? And when I was 3 years old, I started playing hockey north of the border, and I was pushing around my 5-gallon bucket or pushing around my chair on the ice because that's how we learned to do it. And we would fall. We were 3 years old. We would fall.
Right.
We didn't have full gear on.
Right.
And what's the first thing that I got told? Come on, get up. Don't cry. Hockey players don't cry. Come on, be tough.
Right.
Get up. And so from the time I was 3 all the way through my entire journey of playing youth hockey, playing junior, playing in the OHL, then playing NCAA and going on to play pro, you always get told to suck it up. Don't cry. Don't show weakness, right? And so we just suppress. And at some point, the volcano is going to erupt because you can only suppress so much. But you're right, Mark. I mean, I was a guy that people looked at and may still look at today. I'm not really certain. I don't sit and look at myself in this mirror, but a guy that had a beautiful wife and 2 beautiful daughters, thank goodness, had a multi-million-dollar business, played 8 years professional hockey, was a first-team All-American at Miami. All these things, right? Chuck had it all, supposedly.
Right.
But I was completely empty inside, completely.
Wow.
And none of that stuff mattered. None of it, I promise you. And that is I'm not saying anything mean about my wife and my daughters because they are the epicenter of my world. It was nothing about my multi-million-dollar business I was running. It was nothing about the hockey career that I had enjoyed. It was that Chuck wasn't taking care of himself. I was empty and I had nothing to give, nothing. And here I was living with full-on anxiety, full-on depression. I had a master's degree, probably a doctorate in worrying, living in the future. And you and I were touching on it before we started the podcast today, that we think we're in control. And so much of this stuff was out of my control, just like it is for the athlete and their parents. So much of it is out of your control. So stop trying to control it. Control what you can control. But Chuck was trying to control what this guy did, what these people were doing, what these people were saying, how much this company was buying, when this company was paying their bills. I was exhausted, Mark.
Yeah.
And what happens, and not to mention I was incredibly lonely. And even though what that means to me is probably different maybe than it means to a lot of people, is I have friends all over the globe, just like you do,
Sure.
right?
Right.
And I'm not special. Everybody has friends all over the world. But at the same time, there's very few people that intimately understand who we are,
Right.
intimately understand the journey that we're on. The very few people that we can emotionally open up
Mhm.
to in a safe place. And Chuck
Right.
didn't have many of those people at
Right.
that point, probably zero, right? I could talk to my wife, but at the same time, she was trying to be a mother to our daughters, and I didn't want to overload her. So who was Chuck talking to? Nobody, nobody. And really, Mark, it just culminated, and I got to a place that as I was driving down the interstate, and I've shared this with you, but driving down the interstate, I thought, this isn't ending. Like
Yeah.
this way that I'm living, there is zero light at the end of the tunnel. And when loneliness cross sections with hopelessness, there's a glimpse in time that people will make a decision. They will make a permanent decision about a temporary situation, although we at that moment believe it's permanent. And that's really what I was going to do. I was going to
Right.
take my life because I felt like there was no other way to stop the pain. There was no other way for this train wreck to end, that I needed to end it because I had lived months and months and months and months like this with no despair, no, and I just felt hopeless and alone. And when, like I said, when those two roads meet,
Yeah, it's a
um,
scary thought.
it is. And I've lost a
Scary
bunch of
thought.
teammates. I've lost a bunch of friends that went to that same crossroads, and God rest their soul because they're not with us here today. They're not
Yeah.
physically with us anymore.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit about the road back, Chuck, because you said something that we focus on here. You said you weren't talking to anyone. And I want parents to understand because the numbers that we're seeing now is quite frightening when it comes to college athletes that are choosing to make this permanent choice because of a temporary situation. And so, I want parents to understand you've got to be talking to your kids. Was establishing those deep and heartfelt connections key to the road back along with the communication?
100, if there could be more than 100%, Mark, I would say it, but there's only 100% is the most you can get. And it still is to this day.
Right.
To this day, right? That was in 2008 that I had made that decision. And here
Mhm.
we are 16 years later, and my communication is still key to my healing because healing is a journey. It's not a destination.
Right.
And this journey of life that we're on, it's not a destination either, right? And so I find it imperative that opening up and communicating and giving a safe space to people, to ourselves, to open up and share, to say, you know what? I'm not okay. I
Right.
don't understand what's going on. This is how I'm feeling. I don't know how to verbalize it, but let
Mhm.
me just have some verbal diarrhea and tell you how I'm feeling. Because
Right.
when I made my call for help, and it was to a lady that I had never met ever, and my mom had given me her business card 4 to 5 years earlier and said, Chucky, if you ever need to talk to someone, call this lady. She can help you. Well,
Mhm.
in 2008, we all had a pocket full of business cards, right? And so every time I cleaned mine out, this card made the cut. And it's kind of funny. Like you think
Yeah.
back, like, okay, why did I keep, we know now, right? That was some divine intervention that
Right.
I was going to
Right.
need that card at my darkest hour. But I called Sheila, and I'll never forget part of the thing that I do remember so vividly, Mark, like it was yesterday. I picked up the phone, and I did it subconsciously. Like I can't tell you that I consciously made the decision to call for help because I didn't.
Mhm.
There was
Mhm.
something bigger at play here. And I picked up my cell phone and I made the call, and I remember her answering the phone in this just such a beautiful voice, and she just said hello. And I said, "You don't know me." I said, "But my name is Charles Suss and I don't want to live anymore." And the phone went silent. So you can imagine, after all the years of being told, don't ask for help, toughen up, don't cry, all of a sudden the phone went silent. And the first thought that rolled through my mind is, what in the world have I done?
Right.
And this beautiful voice came back on the phone and was like, "You're going to be okay." And I was
Wow.
like, I don't know about that. I had a few other words to say and mixed in
Right.
that, of course.
Sure. Sure.
But that started a dialogue with somebody that for some reason I felt I could trust, and that I could open up to, and I could share the darkness that I'd been living in, and I could share the things. I didn't know how to explain what I was feeling, but I felt like I could do that. And to this day, Sheila continues to walk this journey with me. And I still have my days, not days that I don't want to be here, but days that
Right.
are tough, right?
Right.
We all have those. I'm not
Yes.
going to sit here and tell you it's all unicorns, popsicles, fully loaded pizza, and ice cream cones afterwards, because it's not.
Right.
Is life good? Sure it is. It is.
Right.
But I just have a lot more tools, and the tools came through conversation to learn how to manage all of the things that are coming at us, because life is coming at us fast and way
Absolutely.
faster than it ever has.
So let's talk about how this affected you as a parent, because today, when you think back to the 80s and 90s when you and I were competing, there was no social media, there was no round the clock news, no 24/7, YouTube, Netflix, all this content. Life is coming at these kids so fast, and there was no NIL. The pressures versus what we dealt with is times 1,000, and it's so much for them to compartmentalize. So how do you help your wife understand, what it is to be in this competition? And number two, help your kids, compartmentalize what they're dealing with, whether it's bullying, whether it's, social media, whether it's not enough likes on a picture. We don't know what's going to set our kids off these days.
For me, and Mark, that's a beautiful question. So thank you, because this, in my opinion, is really where a lot of this comes to, right? On any given moment, these kids can perform, and before they even get on the bus to head back to where they're headed or to the next destination for the next game or the hotel room, they can get on X, formerly Twitter, and they can hear what 500 people are saying about the way they just performed.
Right.
But my suggestion, and I talk a lot about this in many different contexts, is control the controllable. All you can do is you can control your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. Beyond that, you have no control over anything. You don't have control over whether someone thought you played well that night or not. You have
Right.
no control over whether the coach likes you or not. You have no control over whether you're going to get to the next level or not, in a lot of ways. Let me say that.
Right. Right.
What you have control over is how you show up in this moment. How are you going to manage your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions? And that comes down to choice. And we all have choices, but all of us want to make sure that we're getting 475 likes on this picture. We want to make sure that the coach loves and approves of us because that makes us feel good. But a lot of it also, Mark, stems, in my opinion, from self-worth.
Yeah.
And self-worth is, we're in this age, and I say all of us, but it's not all of us, but a good majority of these young people are finding their self-worth from what the coach just said, from the number of likes on social media, from whether somebody retweeted or they re-TikToked my TikTok, and if that's a thing, I think you know what I mean. But it's all coming from external sources that we have zero control over. And what most people don't understand is for the most part, we have no idea the journey that the other person has been on to get them to this point where your interactions are now, whether they're daily, weekly, monthly, whatever. And so you don't know how that person is viewing life. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know what they've been through. And you don't know how that day has gone for them to that point. And so many people think, well, the coach didn't tell me that I played well tonight, so they must not like me. Well, did you ever give a thought for a second that maybe at home, the coach's wife is not well, the kids are both sick, one's throwing up and one's on the toilet, and maybe one of his parents just had a fall and is dealing with maybe a broken arm. And maybe I'm going to extremes, but I think you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't know what people are dealing with. So for us to put that on them, it's not that they don't like you. It's they've got other things going on. It's not about you. So stop. It's not about you. Control the controllable. Your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. And what most of us want to do is that what I see is everybody wants to be great. Everybody wants to make the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, Major League Soccer, right? Everybody wants to be great until it comes time to do the work. And you and I both know. And I'm not slamming anybody by saying that. I'm not.
No, not at all.
It's hard.
It's hard being great.
It's hard to be great. And everybody looks at people like Aaron Judge in MLB or Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid or,
Hmm.
pick the best of the best, Patrick Mahomes. They all, right? They all want to be, oh gosh, they have no idea the work
Yes.
that these people are putting in when you don't see them.
Right.
They're not scrolling on Instagram for hours.
Right.
When it comes time, they are ready to prepare and they are ready to play at the level because of the work they've put in when nobody's looking.
It's about the process.
About the
And
process.
and putting in that work is one thing that a lot of kids are not willing to receive. That message is the message that parents, I find, have the most difficult time relaying to their kids. You, as an All-American performer, may not have played volleyball, but you can help your daughter understand the effort that goes into becoming great at it. Because greatness doesn't appear overnight, right? It's a process and the process takes time. Is it different trying to convey that message as a girl dad? Do you have to sugarcoat it? I mean, or do you go with tough love and give it to him straight? Because I know if I was a girl dad, I'd want to sugarcoat it and be as soft as I possibly.
Well, and there's a little bit of both that goes on, Mark, if I'm being 100% honest. There's a little bit of both. There's a time that you can sense that their emotions are riding high and girly things are going on, and that's
Right.
not the time for dad to come in and be harsh. That's the time
Right.
for a hug, for it's going to be okay, relax. And then there's a time that it's, hey, let's be honest.
Right.
It takes time, it takes work, it takes effort, and you need to control what you can control. Don't worry about what your coach is
Right.
doing. If you show up at a high level, at some point, they're going to be forced to play you because all the coach wants to do is win. That's all. And they're going to play who they feel is going to give them the best chance. So, mom and dad, if your kids aren't playing as much as you think they should be, first off, take a step back because it's not about you.
Right.
Right? It's not. And the coach is playing who the coach feels based on skill sets, based on all of these different factors, that they're playing who they think is going to give them the best chance to win. Now, if that's not your son or daughter, love and support them. They don't need to hear from you, well, you should be playing. The coach is a jerk. The coach doesn't know what's going on. They need to dip themselves in the clue pool. Like, it's so obvious.
You preach, brother. Preach.
Right? That you're the best player on this team and why they can't see that. They just need to be fired and, take a step back. And I say that in a loving, joking manner because I have at times thought that myself, right? We're all human. I'm going to be really vulnerable and tell you that I've looked at times and been like, why isn't our daughter playing? But they're going to play the players that are going to give them the best chance. If you want to be one of those players, get to work. There's physical things you can do, but the part of the game that we all forget about is the mental part. How do we get better mentally? Are we doing our visualization? Are we talking positive affirmations? Are we doing and being the best version of ourselves from the shoulders up? There's so many tools, and we use this thing so little, Mark, so little. So as parents, and this is one thing that I love, my parents were so amazing at this. Before every hockey season, they used to ask me, do you want to play this year? They knew the answer. They did.
Right.
They knew it's going to be, heck yeah. Okay.
Right.
We just want you to know that you're never forced to play. But if you want to play, you can play. But if you start, you have to finish the season. We don't start and quit halfway.
Yeah, we don't quit anything. Yep, absolutely.
Right? And at the end of the year, if you don't want to play next year, that's up to you. But my mom and dad did such an amazing job of just supporting me, loving me, and telling me that, okay, today wasn't your greatest game. Tomorrow will be better. Get back to work. And if you want to get better, you know what to do. Get after it. Right. But just know that we love you, whether you gave up 10 goals or whether you gave up none. And I want to encourage parents to do that today because so many parents, and I love the parents and I love having conversations with parents.
Sure.
But the pressure that we're putting on these kids, and we don't know we're doing it. We don't. Because if we knew it, we wouldn't do it. And sometimes it just takes awareness. And I think you deal with that on a regular basis, Mark. And
sure.
Just take a step back. Remind them to play for the love of the game first, because sports are so amazing. The things you're going to learn, and it's hard to make it.
Yes.
You can't. No, I didn't
Right.
say that. I just said it's hard
Yep.
because you are going to have to give up proms. You're going to have to give up winter formals. You're going to have to
Mhm.
give up birthday parties. You're going to have to give up dates with the cute guy or the cute girl or whatever.
Right.
There's a lot of sacrifice. Like people asked me, Chuck, if you look back at your high school, would you do it any different? And I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Right.
But there was a lot of things I missed.
I know.
Right? I missed
Yep.
all those Friday night bonfires out at somebody's farm. Where was I? I was playing hockey.
Right. Right.
Or I played Saturday, so I was sleeping.
Right.
But they have to be willing to give
Right.
that up. Not you, mom and dad. They have to be willing. And I must say that's where I was very fortunate as well, Mark, with our daughters. Our oldest daughter was a level 10 gymnast and could have went on to college and chose not
Right.
to do college gymnastics. But now our youngest daughter is going to go play Division I volleyball. And the
Wow.
beautiful thing is they're both incredibly self-motivated.
Nice.
That we're not behind them. Hey, should you be going to the gym? Hey, should you be
Right.
going to do a private lesson, work on hitting or work on your back handspring on the beam?
Right.
They were very self-motivated. And in order to make it, and whatever that make it means, whether it's be a high school star, whether it's be Division III, Division II, Division I, it's going to play pro, that fire has to come from within.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the sacrifice is so difficult at this young age. And so many of these kids are born with FOMO, right? Just the fear of missing out on everything. And so, we have to help them, establish themselves and find who they are because so many of them are looking for their identity through athletics. And that's not the love of the game. Right. That's a totally different pursuit. But I think, I'm really worried about our young people, our young leaders of tomorrow, because I think this NIL thing was not well thought out. I think, passing out millions of dollars to young people, especially young men whose brains don't completely form until 26, 27, is just a recipe for disaster. And I want to know what your thoughts are in terms of managing the expectations. Chuck, there are a lot of kids out there, and I'm hearing from parents now, well, why isn't my kid getting a call for NIL? Is he not worth it? Now we're finding our self-worth in the dollar amount that somebody who doesn't know us puts on our ability, right? And now we have an upset parent, we have an upset child, which totally, takes us off the path. The goal was to get an education and play a little football or play basketball with it, right? Use it as a means to an end. Now, if we don't get the NIL, oh my God, 4-alarm fire, shut everything down, the world stops. So how do we manage that expectation?
I love this, Mark, because you and I could talk a long time about NIL.
Oh,
Right?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember when I played in college and I was a walk-on and I didn't get any money
Yep.
until my second semester of my senior year. And when I came in as a freshman, I remember thinking, my gosh, that guy got a full ride. Like, wow, he must be like next level. Like, because that's the weight that a full ride.
Right.
And
Especially
now,
back then.
yeah, but now it's a full ride. I know I'm getting that. So
Right.
what else do you have for me?
Right. Right.
Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I still believe that the full ride or the half ride, whatever it is, should still carry that weight because there's thousands of kids that are paying their way for that 4 to 5 year
Yes.
education. It's costing mom and dad $300,000 to $400,000 for you to do that. And yet it doesn't seem to be enough at this point of where we are. And I agree, NIL, I don't think was very well thought out. And I do believe that there should be a time that if we're going to go down this road, which we obviously have, that maybe that these kids don't have access to those funds until a certain age. Maybe it's 30,
Yes.
maybe it's
Right.
35, maybe it's 40. And people are like, well, they need it now. No, they don't. They've lived
No,
this
they
long
don't.
without it. They've lived this long without it, and athletes before them have all lived without it. The majority of the team are living without it.
Without it.
You
Right.
think you need it, but you don't. And so, and I think when it comes to the expectation, Mark, I think it circles back a little bit like you and I were just talking about, is it's there's no self-worth isn't built on outer things. Self-worth isn't built because somebody gives you $1 million NIL. That doesn't make you a great person. It doesn't give you higher self-worth. What they see is that your marketability and your potential to be a star, or that you're one of the star players, is going to help their company. It's helping them,
Absolutely.
right? At the end
Absolutely.
of And so it becomes, and for the people that are not giving it, it's not about you and it's not personal. And if your self-worth
Right.
is built on everything on the outer sides of what's going on in life, we've got a bigger topic to talk about. And that's where it's about building their self-worth from when they're a young child. Hey, you know what? You're amazing just as you are. You're always,
Yes.
whether you are being the star or you're sitting on the bench, I love you.
Yes.
Awesome. And in my books, you're a rock star. And
Absolutely.
and I look back and I don't know that my wife and I did everything right, but we did that a lot of times. Like
Right.
there were meets when our girls were both doing gymnastics prior to our younger daughter going to play volleyball that I'll never forget. I think we we're in Atlanta and she came up and it was the first time she hadn't received a medal for being first, second, or third in a meet.
Mhm.
This was early on. And she came up to me and she was crying. She was crying. She's like, I can't believe I didn't get a ribbon. I didn't get a medal. I didn't get anything. And I looked at her and I said, sweetie, I said, I love you regardless if you got a medal or anything. I said, in my books, you're a rock star. And
There you
now,
go.
if you don't like that feeling, let's get back to work and
There
let's
you go.
start working so that we can achieve that medal or that ribbon. You know, you have the greatness inside you. Go get it. Go
Right.
polish it. Go be all that you can be and ask the big guy for guidance. Ask him for help because it's hard to do it alone. But
Yes,
we did
indeed.
both of those and we never based their self-worth on their athletic
I
performance.
mean,
We never based their self-worth on a test at school
right.
because each one of us is great exactly how we are,
How we are. Yep.
whether we get a 50% on that test or we get a 90%, whether we are catching the field goal or catching the touchdown that wins the championship, or we've been sitting on the bench. We're all
Yep.
great. We all have
Yep.
tremendous greatness. And it's time that we stop basing this self-worth and our kids' worth on being the star in sports.
Yeah,
To be
absolutely.
a star, tell them how much you love them regardless and watch them
Wow.
flourish. You want to empower them to be that person, tell them you love them and they're great regardless of what their performance looks like. And watch those shoulders pop back, watch the head lift up, and watch that Superman cape or Wonder Woman cape all of a sudden get put on. And we giggle about it, but we look at that 3 or 4 year old. We've all seen them on social media. They have the glasses or the cape on, and they're strutting around like they're Superman or Wonder Woman because that's what they believe. But somewhere along the way, we've started to judge them on what they do, and they start to feel not as much because of some of the
Right.
words that have been chosen to be said to them. And so, as
Right.
parents, we need to be careful what we say. Our words have power. Our words
Words
carry
matter.
weight.
Yes.
Be careful.
Yes.
Gosh sakes, let's stop judging our kids on athletic
Yes.
performance. People, oh, Chuck, it's easy for you to say you played college athlete, you were a pro. Let me tell you something. It had nothing to do because I had some of the lowest self-worth, and people don't know that I struggled with self-worth for
A
years.
lot of athletes do. Yep.
Oh, for years. So let's try to change that tide and let's start pumping their tires. Let's make them feel good about who they are and stop basing that whether we get the $1 million NIL or we don't, whether we play 30 minutes or we don't. You know what? You're a rock
Right.
star in my book regardless. And I love
There
you.
you go.
And pump them up and watch how it changes their athletic performance. It's not why you do it,
That's the
but that's a
ticket.
byproduct of it. And
Absolutely.
Mark, one more point I just want to make real quick because
Sure.
this is something that's been taught to me through my journey since 2008 is expectations. How do you manage expectations? Well, you expect it all with no expectation of any of it. So you approach life like I can do anything, right? I can
Right.
get anything, but have no expectation that you're ever what you're going to receive, how you're going to receive it, when it's going to come, any of that. And I think when you expect the oyster of life to be yours, because we can all expect that with no expectation of how much we're going to get, when we're going to get it, if we're going to get it, then you can start to manage that because you know you can have access to all of it because we do as God's children, we have access to all of it, but we have no expectation what maybe God has expected for us or what he's going to deliver for us. So we can start to manage that. Where we get in trouble is when our human side comes in and we start to say, I deserve that. And we become a little bit entitled, right? That big E word, entitlement, right? And so I think it's managing that entitlement word too. Like, yeah, expect it all with no expectations.
No expectation. I love it. I love it. Chuck, let our audience know where people can find you if they need your services or they'd like to have a conversation with you, because I'm sure you're going to get busy over the next couple of years. You're going to be very busy.
Well, thank you, Mark. And my website is thecompassionateconnection.com. You can check out there. It's got reach out to Chuck. My cell phone number might even be on there, and I'm happy to give that out as well. It's 251-680-5731. You can text me, you can call me, you can email me, you can send me chocolates. I do like dark chocolate, preferably. You can send me flowers, whatever. I'm just joking, but my point is just reach out. Let's have a conversation. Our young people need to feel loved. They need to feel supported, and they need to know that they're enough exactly how they are, Mark, because everybody's perfect exactly how we are. May not be what our version of perfect is, but God made us this way for a reason, right?
Sure.
And we're perfect exactly how we are. And let's wrap our arms around who we are and embrace our uniqueness. And when we do that, it gives us a path forward, and we don't worry about some of these things that are now clouding the thoughts and the space and the mind space of these young people, because it's an issue. And
No
the more
doubt.
that we can wrap our arms around them and tell them that we love them and that they're perfect exactly how they are, I think it gives them an opportunity to start to embrace who they are as well.
No doubt. No doubt. Chuck Thus, the Compassionate Connection.com is where you can find him. Chuck, thank you so much for joining us today, my friend. Truly, words of wisdom to live by. And I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate your time to help our audience with this very, very tough issue that we're all dealing with today.
Mark, thank you so much. And I appreciate you and your friendship. And I look forward to this journey that you and I are walking, and where it leads, we don't know, but I know it's going to be doing some great things together. And I look forward to it. Thank you, my friend.